Hi, sorry, I'm a little late to get going. Um, and my lights are not on because I was in the middle of composing an email and went, oh my goodness, I just scheduled this thing to go live. So I am Dana K. White. I am the author of Decluttering at the Speed of Life. I'm the creator of the No Mess Decluttering Process, which I just had a call with my Patreon members this morning. And we were talking about the power. uh, there's a lot of power in the no mess decluttering method. One of the biggest perks is knowing that you are going to work in a way that allows you to stop at any time. That cannot be underestimated or undervalued as one of the biggest benefits of using this method. Knowing I can stop at any time means I am willing to get started. I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I have to push through. Here's what I mean. It is very normal. I'm currently working on my edits for my procrastination book. It is very normal to feel like if I haven't been able to successfully do this before, it must be because I didn't go hard enough last time. That was probably the problem. That was probably the reason I failed last time is I didn't go hard enough. And then we try to go even harder, have an even bigger, more powerful, oomph-full beginning the next time. And then we get into the same sticking point situation and shut down. And it's harder and harder to build that oomph for the next time. So, what that looks like in decluttering is it feels like the right thing to do things in a way where I force myself to keep going, except I always underestimate my ability to not be forced to keep going, right? Like that was what would happen. I would pull everything out. I thought if I go big, if I pull every single thing out of this space, I am going to have to finish. I mean, I'll just have to, except that I didn't have to, and life would go on, and those things were now spread everywhere. And I was, you know, having to lift my feet high to get over the piles or living amongst this. And I was always so frustrated. So then I would not want to get started the next time because I was like, well, last time I went so hard in the beginning and then I still failed. And so this time, does that mean I have to go even harder? And then what's that going to mean? So instead, to say, I'm going to use the no mess method because I know I will, for a fact, make progress. And I will know that if I emotionally shut down, if life happens, if I forget that I also said I would make a peanut butter pie for Thanksgiving and I have to run out to the store and get the ingredients for that and come, like whatever happens, I'm only going to make progress. And knowing that means I can get started. So yeah, don't underestimate the power of the no mess method. So, as those of y'all, some of y'all I know are on kind of some different schedules right now. And so you might be here and you're not normally able to be here. So, welcome. We're so excited. I'm actually only going to take questions from those of you who are watching live today because I kind of came into this working on some other things and I didn't have time to gather some things that were asked ahead of time. But you can ask questions for future lives if you're watching this not live. That looks a little weird. At askdanakWhite.com. What I really need to do is just give me some fluff, right? Okay. All right. I don't know. Here we go. Let's see. If you would like to ask a question, go ahead and put question marks at the beginning. So Rachel here did that. So she put question marks at the beginning of the question. That means that as it comes across my screen, I'm more likely to notice that it's a question because I love that y'all are interacting with each other and commenting, but I do want to catch the questions as much as I can. Okay. Hi, Dana. What do I do with multiples of kids' school pictures? I want to discard them, but don't want to shred them. I mean, Is it that you don't wanna shred them because that feels weird, and maybe it also feels weird to just throw them in the trash? You know, burning might be an option. Um, Sometimes what I would do is if it wasn't too many of the multiples of the school pictures, I would put them together in the album or put them behind each other in the frame, or just, give away as many as I can and then say, okay, the rest I'm going to go ahead and throw away. Um, yeah, the other thing too is remembering that these moments, which I don't, school pictures are not as much of a thing now that, everybody has digital pictures all the time, as they were when I was a kid. But I know, for me, dealing with this and trying to figure it out and then feeling weird about shredding my kid's picture or throwing it, I just always just throw them away. But like all of those feelings and angst helped me the next time it was time to order pictures to go, you know what? We just kind of need just what we need for grandma and grandpa and for us. And then that's going to be good. Right. All right. Let's see. How many passes did I make of my home? I don't I don't look at it that way. I have never here's what I'll say. When I started decluttering, I thought this was how I would do things, that I would make a full pass of my home and then make another pass of my home. Instead, as I started decluttering, I followed the visibility rule out of desperation. Like, I got to have a way to prioritize. This is how I prioritized. And it turned out it worked really well for me. That I started in the most visible spaces and then used that to build out and continue decluttering through the whole house. But a big thing that happened for me as I decluttered was the realization that people whose houses are clutter free are decluttering always. Like, there is no end to decluttering. And that, I think that mindset is what took me away from thinking of it as a pass through my home. Now, maybe you're already thinking of it that way too, but I do feel like that was actually extremely helpful for me, because when I realized there was no end to decluttering, then I also realized that uh, I couldn't fail at decluttering. As long as I was getting stuff out of my house, I couldn't fail, because when I had the mindset that there will come a date when I will be done decluttering, which is not a thing for anyone, just so you know, like, it's literally not a thing for anyone. And it's actually one of the biggest incorrect mindsets that those of us who struggle with clutter have, that causes us to continue to struggle with clutter, is thinking that there will be an end date. But when I realized, okay, for me to have a house without clutter means I will always be decluttering, then it shifted me from thinking there was a wrong way to do it. And when I realized there wasn't a wrong way to do it, and as long as stuff was leaving my house, I was being successful, and I just needed to keep continuing stuff leaving my house, then it just gave me so much freedom to just keep going. And so because I kind of made that mindset shift, I would say probably, I don't know, you could read back through my blog to find out, because it was all very real time, what I was doing, what I was figuring out. But I would say maybe a year and a half when I had that realization into decluttering. I just haven't ever thought of it as a pass through the house. But um, I, I would say it took 2 to 3 years to get my house to where it was like, oh no, we're good. We're good. I'm going to continue decluttering, but I still, like, if I have a day, I and I'm like, okay, I've got some time. I'm like, all right, well, what area, what thing can I tackle? And I have several things in my mind of, like, little areas that I want to declutter in my home that I want to go through again, or that have gotten cluttered again and that need some work. So that is a constant and an always. I will continue doing that. Let's see. How do you declutter when you can't complete all the steps of your system? I would like to help my mom declutter her storage units while living with me, but I can't take it there now. Oh, okay. Um, only trash? I think that the question is, or do you just stick to trash? Sticking to trash and obvious donations would be the way to go. So yes, trash. Um, go, you're trying to help your mom, sticking to trash, sticking to the obvious donations, and just like getting those out and gaining some momentum in that can be huge. Your mom is living with you and those are her storage units. And so you're in a very complicated situation because it sounds like it's temporary and you want to go ahead and help her do that. Yes, even if you just go into it and you say, but because this also might help her too, right? Is that you're not going and doing a hard declutter. It's just like, hey, let's take a box at a time when we can. Either we go there, or if you're able and willing to bring one box at a time into your house and go through the box, let's just get rid of the trash and the donations and the obvious ones to her. Let's just go through it for that, so that potentially you could consolidate storage units, which she may not be able to envision that, but you can envision that that could be possible. And you specifically said units, so she's spending money on those, and that would be a way to, free up some money that might then help her be able to, when she's not living with you anymore, it might help her with that if she doesn't have that ongoing expense of the storage unit. So like there's all these kinds of motivations to say, hey, let's just go in and let's just see if there's any trash or donations in a box, and we'll get rid of that, because that frees the pressure. It releases the pressure of, oh no, it's going to be a big decluttering thing, and say, oh, we're only going to do the stuff that is super obvious to you, and we're just going to look for the purpose. And if we don't see it, okay, there's going to be trash and donations. And every little bit of that you get gone and out of there into trash and donate is going to, free up space, which then potentially could help you consolidate, which then could get you there. And I think it'll all make it easier down the road when you can do the take it there now. Paper is one of my roadblocks. Any easy start suggestions? Yes, easy start, because you specifically asked for an easy start. Sorry, I put that away. Is to commitment free, okay, non-committal looking. I am going to take a handful of papers and I'm going to look through it. And if there happens to be any trash, I'm going to throw away the trash. There's always trash. Especially if you have been overwhelmed by things or thought, I don't know. And so you stuck an envelope somewhere, and that envelope that looked super important, half the time it's not. So it's going to involve opening up those envelopes. Maybe the envelope itself goes into the trash or recycling if you already have a recycling routine. So many times, even important papers, there's one and then there's 3 blank papers behind it. And I don't know why they do that, but going through that. So commitment free, just looking for trash. That is the way to get started. All right. Why is it that when my mom helps me declutter and clean, we get frustrated at each other? I don't know. That sounds like, I don't know. That's not something I have an expertise to be able to read minds or any of that. You and Cass say the same things as my mom, and I don't get frustrated. Please explain. I mean, I think, this is one of the reasons why I have decluttering coaches that I've trained and certified. I'm sorry, y'all. I have to check. My kids are all traveling today. So I just have to make sure there's not emergencies, but I'll actually read text later. It's Thanksgiving week here in the US. That's why they're all traveling. So yay. I have decluttering coaches because it is just a natural thing, right? Like it is a normal thing to have there, for me and for Cass, whoever, a coach to come in and tell you something, they don't have history with you. I don't have history with you. I can't remind you that you haven't actually used this item. I can't, and so I am able to stick to the actual facts. Where would you look for it first? And is there space for it there? Okay. And not, this is ugly. This is not something you've ever actually used. You said you were going to such and such, and then you never did. We don't have any of that history. Right. And so that is why it's easier to take this from someone else, I believe. But again, talk to a mental health professional if you need, if that doesn't help you to hear that. Um, yeah, that's what I think. How old were your kids when you started your decluttering process, and how did you get them involved? So my I would say I started decluttering before I started my blog, but my blog started in 2009. And if you ever want to like see exactly what I was doing from the beginning, how I was feeling, what I did that did work and what I did that didn't work, and what I gave up on and what I kept going with and what made the biggest impact, a slobcomesclean.com is my uh, record of all of that. Like, I wanted to be a writer. I wasn't teaching anyone anything in the beginning because it was a secret practice blog. I was like, this is a way for me to practice writing and get my house under control at the same time. And then I'll completely let that go once my house is done. And then I will write about something else. Well, here I am writing about the same thing so many years later, for lots of reasons. And I won't go into all that. But my point is, you can go back and see everything I was doing and figuring out. But what I will say here, my kids were 3, 5, and 7 when I started. Officially the blog, I would say I had started decluttering probably 6 months before that. Not that I hadn't been trying to declutter always, but really was actively like getting major stuff out about 6 months before that. So, how did I get them involved? I will tell you that when I first started, because it was a secret blog, like I hadn't even told my family what I was doing, I only focused on what I could do. And that is actually what shifted everything for me. Always before, I had said, okay, I need to declutter. Obviously, I'm also a mom. My kids need to declutter too. We need to do this together. And I had tried to make it a group effort to start decluttering, and I had always failed because I was zeroed in on what I was doing and what I wasn't doing. I focused on my own stuff and neutral stuff, and that is how I got my kids involved, by them seeing our house change. Because what I realized was, when I would try to go from total cluttered disaster, always a mess house, and then I said, "Hey kids, we need to declutter," they had no frame of reference for what it was I was trying to achieve, because the house that they had lived in had always been a mess. And so they didn't know what it was that I was picturing and where, so it was too hard for me to focus in on neutral things that I was in charge of, my own stuff. Our house started to change just by doing that. Of course, we needed to get to the kids' stuff, but they were so much more ready, and I was more ready to help them declutter after I had started decluttering my own stuff, because I had such a better understanding of decluttering and our house. They were like, "Oh, it's easier to live in a house with less stuff." Oh, anyway, so 3, 5, and 7, get them involved. The way for you to get them in, the number one thing I would say is declutter your own stuff first. Declutter neutral stuff first, so the family starts to experience what it's like to live in a house with less stuff, to see stuff starts to become normal, to see stuff leaving the house, and then follow the 5-step process that I have now developed over the years of, lots and lots of trial and error. Let's see. How do I figure out where to donate things to? Ask people locally. It does not help for me in Texas to give you donate to this, this, and this, because it is so uniquely local everywhere. I mean, like, it's different from town to town, from county to county. So the way you figure out how to do that is you ask local people, where do you donate stuff? I know that can feel weird. to ask. I know this because this was my own perspective as the person whose house was so incredibly cluttered. I felt funny asking that because it was my deep dark secret that I had so much stuff. And I'm not saying this is your situation, but this was mine. It was so I had so much stuff and I was so embarrassed of how much stuff I had to declutter. And I was so um I was always hiding that. I was always hiding what a struggle my clutter was. And so because of that, it felt like if I asked, of course, this was before Facebook, but if I asked people, where do you donate stuff? They're going to know my deep, dark secret that clutter is my nemesis in life, right? And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning of, what was I talking about at the beginning? Um, the how many passes, of getting rid of stuff, of not realizing that everybody whose house is not cluttered declutters constantly. If somebody's house is not cluttered, it's because they're constantly decluttering. So now I know, because I've realized that, I know that it is, for someone whose house is not cluttered, it is the most normal question, conversation in the world to have, for somebody to ask about, hey, where do you donate your stuff? They know. They know how to get rid of stuff. And so that is literally the only way. Of course, you can Google it. But I will say, a lot of, at least where I live, a lot of the charities, that the thrift stores that take donations, a lot of times they're making it, and they don't always also have somebody building their websites and giving them an online presence. And so the best way to do it is to ask the people who live in your area. Let's see. Goodness. Did you know you have helped create peaceful homes across the entire planet? Yes, I did, because y'all tell me, and I am so incredibly grateful to be able to do that. I still find it wild that that my deep dark secret that I've mentioned several times already today, but my deep dark secret of struggling with clutter, this thing that I could not imagine God would ever use, like, why would he want to use that? This is the thing about myself that was such a struggle. That it's actually been able to help other people. And I'm incredibly grateful for that. And I know, because you tell me, you email me, you send me your stories, and they just make my heart grow 3 sizes that day, right? Hi, Dana. I'm new to your process, but I'm drowning in clutter right now. Mainly specialty craft supplies like fiber for spinning yarn and sentimental items. Thank you. Yes, the first thing I would say is don't start with that stuff. Start with non-emotional, non-identity related stuff. Like, I'm assuming that you view yourself as a crafter. Crafting, creativity goes with clutter. Like, they are highly, highly related. When I realized that, it actually freed me to say, okay, so my high levels of creativity are directly related to my struggle with clutter. I like my creativity, so I'm going to learn to accept how my brain works and say, okay, well then how do I make this work? Right? Because I didn't want to live in the clutter, but also knowing it was related to the part of me I did like, the creative side, made me go, okay, all right, then how can I make this work? So what I will say is, start in the non-emotional things. Don't start with these things, because it's very, very normal for your brain to immediately fixate on the hardest decision that you have to make, this particular category of items. So instead, start in your entryway. Start throwing away trash. Start dealing with the stuff that doesn't take your breath away, that doesn't wake you up in the middle of the night. As you do that, you're going to gain experience. Use my 5-step process. You can get a printable at aslobcomesclean.com/5, FIVE. It's also in Decluttering at the Speed of Life. It's in Organizing for the Rest of Us. And those are You follow that process in stuff areas that you don't care about. By the time you get to this stuff, your house will be so much better off. You may have more space for it, um, but you'll also be ready and have a very different mindset about your space and your stuff. It is going to come down to, where would you look first for fiber for spinning yarn, and how much room is available in that place where you would look first for fiber for spinning yarn. And that's going to determine how much of it you can keep. And then you're going to remove your least favorite fiber for spinning yarn until you only have what fits functionally in that space. But the best, all of that may be like, no, wait, what? I'm trying to wrap my brain around it. How does that work with spinning yarn? Don't start with spinning yarn. Start with other stuff. My sewing room is not accessible because I have so much fabric. I keep buying fabric. I love it. How can I tackle this? Okay. First thing is to remember that you've already defined this room as the sewing room, but you are not, it is not a sewing room right now. It is a fabric storage room. Because it's a fabric storage room, you're, I'm guessing, not able to actually sew. So knowing the identity of the room as a sewing room is really important, meaning open space, clear table, area to move around, get in, do all of that. That is the top priority for that space. Only space outside of the area that you need to actually do the function of sewing can be used for fabric storage. At this point, your sewing room is not accessible, which means you got to get rid of your least favorites until you only have what will fit functionally in this room, with the function being that you have to actually be able to do the sewing. I'm also going to say the same thing I said on the last question, which is practice this in non-emotional, non-identity laden areas of your home, and it will start to make sense to you and you'll get it. And then you'll apply that to the sewing room and you'll go, oh yeah, oh, I can totally do this now. Let's see. I struggle with the take it there now because when I get to where would I look for this first, I can't get to that spot. There's a pile of stuff, clutter, on the floor in front of the drawer or cabinet. Okay, so this is most common problem that people have until you follow what I'm about to tell you, and then you'll be like, oh, I got it now. I can totally do this. When you take it there now, and a space is its own disaster, that is completely normal for those of us who struggle with clutter. I did not struggle with clutter because I had one problem area. I had a problem. And so therefore the problem went through the whole house. Like my whole house was a disaster. So when you take it there now, if there is not room for this item or you can't get to this spot, remember, you're not going to make this space any worse by taking it there now, as long as you remove something that is at least the same size as the item that you're taking there now. So if you can't get to the spot, get it as close as you can. If there's a pile of stuff in front of this cabinet where you want it to be when you take it there now, you're not going to stop and work on this space because you need to stay focused on the space you were originally in. But don't leave it any worse. So if there's a pile in front of there and you can't even get to this spot, things are going to have to leave the house. Like, it is a fact. It is the only way. So there is trash or a obvious donation in this pile. There just has to be. So as you leave an item, let's say you're leaving a tumbler. You're going to leave a tumbler in this spot, but I can't even get to the cabinet where I would because there's a pile in front of it. Okay. Well, I am going to remove something, trash or an obvious donation, meaning I'm not having to go, what's trash? Like, is there trash? There's always trash. Is there an obvious donation? There usually is. I'm going to remove something that is going to be the same size or bigger than this item. So, oh, okay, which I have this. I've got so many examples right in front of me. Um, I, Size-ish. Okay, I'm going to remove this and I'm going to take this. I'm going to go take it to the recycling or the trash bag or my trash, whatever, which is back at the space where I was originally decluttering. So that takes me back there. But when I do that, I am not leaving this space any worse than it was. And my whole house is one water bottle less cluttered. My house has one less item in it because something has gone in the trash or the donate box in order to leave this there. Okay. So that there is a video that I did. It's probably been a month or two ago. I don't know. 7 truths about the take it there now. You need to watch that one. That will explain what all that means. Okay. The second problem is I think I need to put all the with first so I know how much of one thing I have to decide. No, you're not at that point. If you can't even get to that space, something's just got to go. And that is that you're thinking organizing, and what you need to be doing is decluttering, because there is no hope of it being organized if you can't even get to the space. Stuff just has to leave the house. Okay. Not a question, but a thank you, because I'm able to invite a guest for Thanksgiving this year. Not perfect, but good enough to welcome someone who is alone. Oh, well, now you're going to make me cry. Yeah, thank you. I'm very thankful that you invited someone. They are blessed, and I'm very honored to have a part in that. How do I figure out? Oh, you already asked that. Okay. Let's see. Can y'all hear the mooing? There's cows out there mooing. Which book will be best for someone who gets overwhelmed first? I would say if you're overwhelmed completely with your home, this is the one. Okay. And don't forget, these are all available: paperback, Kindle, all the different, every format, audio. It's me reading it. They're on Audible. So if you're just overwhelmed with your house, this is the one. If this one has tip format, so you can read through it and get quick little bits and pieces. So that'd be good. Let's see. Caught up on the dishes, no longer have a dishwasher. I can't just do the dishes once a day. I have to do them after every meal. Is this reasonable, or will it lead to burnout? Totally reasonable. I mean, that's the very best way. I mean, if you keep up with them, if you, that's the way to not get overwhelmed, is to do it. Now, when you do that, you're probably going to be like, I'm going to limit these dishes, because if I limit the dishes, then I can't possibly get a pile up, because the pile up's what will burn you out. I'm unpacking a box of small knickknacks, tchotchkes. I love that word so much. Decorative items. No, it's not you. It's not you making me yawn. It's me. None of it has an established home. Finding where would I look for it first, very tricky. Any tips? Yes. Remember that where would I look for it first is only for things you don't know where it goes. If you knew where it went, it was easy. So you are literally only asking this question when you have no earthly idea. And so it's not a thing where you're like, absolutely, that is where it goes. It's where would I look for it first? Well, I'd look for it first and there. Picture yourself knowing that you have it, but not knowing where it goes, and then going and looking for it there with no confidence it's going to be there. So I think it's remove the need to be supremely confident in your answer, and instead go, this is my instinct. And it is for the times when I have no earthly idea where something is supposed to live in my home, when something doesn't have a home. And I'm literally asking myself, where would I look for it first at the beginning of what I assume is a 3-hour search tearing my house apart? Oh, I love this. She says, I don't know if you're going to see my comment. I did. But you answered my question on another live, and it made such a big difference in my home. Thank you. That makes me so happy to hear. Here we go. Thank you for giving me permission to give up that second and third useful item. Can opener, whisk. I only kept what will fit into the kitchen drawers instead of keeping backups. Yep. As long as I'm asking myself, is it useful? Oh, I can come up with a reason to keep it all. And then my house was completely out of control. I had to go with the space. Okay, I already got that one. Let's see. I have a couple of boxes of stuff to give away, but each goes to different recipients. Many open only to receive donations during my work hours. I'm having paralysis over that. Any suggestions? Yeah, I mean, this is so hard. First thing you could do is you could call, perhaps on your lunch hour, call and ask them to if they'll pick up. But if that's not possible, either because you don't want to call, or because they can't pick up, I'm going to say the key is going to be to donate to the place that you can actually get to. And the reason I say this is I know it's very normal, because those of us who struggle with clutter, we are delightful, wonderful, idealistic people, right? And we want to give our old towels to the animal shelter, and we want to give the these kinds of things to the women's shelter, and we want our stuff to go do big things. But it's not doing anything as long as you're running into this roadblock. So the way to deal with this roadblock is to say, what can actually happen? It might mean that I have to pick the place that is not my favorite place, and it's not a charity that I have a personal attachment to, or maybe it's one that I've read an internet article that they, don't do the greatest things and blah, blah, blah. I view anybody who takes my donations, I view it as their service to me, not my service to them. Okay. So I view them taking my stuff as, wow, thank you so much for taking my stuff, instead of them needing to thank me for taking my stuff. So it would be like, who is available for you to drop stuff off on your way to work, or on your lunch hour, or on your way home, and we'll take it all, as opposed to dividing it out into different places. I used to divide things out into the very best places for things to go, and it just slowed down my decluttering process so much that I had to stop. And but here's the beauty of it. When you get to the point where you have gotten rid of so much stuff that you're only dealing with small things, then it's like, oh, I can actually take this at such and such time, and it's not as overwhelming anymore. And then you can do the more idealistic things. I was confused by the recent video about the container in the garage. Did you follow the 5-step method? Like, the first place you'd look for a sentimental invitation is in a bin in the garage. So it was last week's video, which all of these were recorded in the summer, so I have to think through. That video was about, this is the space I have in my garage for a container. I had to get stuff dealt with that had just been in boxes, okay? Because I was having the 1-800-GOT-JUNK people come, and I wanted them to take everything they could. And so this was a container in the garage, and it was basically just the container concept, as opposed to the whole 5-step process, except that I had trash right there and I had donate right there. And so things were, for expediency, okay, we're going into the trash, the donate, or the container, and that's it. Okay. Now, if I ran across something, which I would have said it in the video, but if I ran across something that I'm like, oh my goodness, I've been looking for that, then I would take it there now. But anything that was blah, I would look for this, I don't know, but where in the house, it went into the container. But the because I did that, I was able to get rid of huge amounts of trash. I mean, we're talking crazy amounts of trash. The vast majority of that stuff out there was trash. And so things went either into this one confined, defined space, or they went into trash or donations. So, yeah. And the point of it was, I know sometimes you do have to do what you have to do, but the container concept still applies, and the trash and the donation still applies, right? Like, that space was made only better. It was not made worse, because the hang up that so many of us who struggle with clutter, that other people will say, just let him take it all. You haven't looked in there in 3 years. Just let him take it all. My answer to that is I can't. Like, I can't. So this is a way for me to deal with that, which would be a very similar thing to, our question before about the storage units. It's like, okay, I'm putting things either in the container or the trash or the donation, because I don't have the option, either because of time constraints or location restraints or whatever, to do the very, very best thing. Does that make sense? Okay. Let's see. Okay, here we go. My parents bring me items and I pass it on due to not wanting. Oh, yeah, this is hard. My parents bring me items and I pass it on due to not wanting, and now they just keep it. Their house is seriously hoarding, and I'm going to be left to deal with that one day. I've talked 100,000 times. I don't know what to say other than I'm sorry, and you're not alone. And I know it's hard. I know it's hard. But you can only do what you can do. And it feels like that's what you've been doing, which is, I can't take this stuff into my house. And you're being honest with them and open and saying, I'll pass it on because I'm not taking it into my house, but now they're just keeping it in their house. So it's hard. Yeah. We also had with my father-in-law, it was hard because he and my mother-in-law have both passed at this point, several years ago. But I remember we said many times, we were like, this is a horrible feeling, because we knew it was going to end with a train wreck, that being a euphemism, right? Like, we knew that there just was absolutely no willingness to go ahead and do the things that needed to be done. It was like we had to just wait for when the worst eventually happened, and then we had to deal with it. And it was really hard. Let's see. Dana, you are truly my kindred spirit. You are the first person who has truly understood my issues with clutter as a fellow creative person. Thanks so much for all you do. Thank you. Let's see. Yep. Just confirmation from other watchers. Yes, defining the room makes such a huge difference, especially in craft rooms. Okay, got that one. Let's see. What to do when your husband's where to look first is not the same as you. We just go with who is it that actually is the one looking? Like, if my family member's automatic thing that they would ask is, Mom, where's the such and such? Then I get to be the one it's where I would look for it first. So it's who's actually doing the looking. And if it's an item like, let's say, screwdrivers or scissors or whatever, sometimes you have more than one place. Maybe there's a place where he looks for scissors and that's where his favorite pair of scissors goes. And I look for scissors in this place and that's where my favorite pair of scissors goes. Yeah. Let's see. This comment says, thank you. This is huge. Thank you. Thank you. Why didn't this ever sink in for me before? I don't know what it is that I said that was great, but I'm glad. I'm glad it was helpful. Mine was the tchotchkes questions. It seems harder with decorative items because I wouldn't go looking for something that isn't functional, but they delight me, so I want them. Same thing. Like, where would I look first for this? Whatever it is. That's why we get away from that. How do I use it? Or when would I use it? Or blah, blah, blah. Because it's so easy to be like, well, it's not useful, but I want it. And so then I think I'm stuck. So instead, to know that where would I look for it first works for literally everything. And sometimes it comes down to, where would I look for this first? I wouldn't I wouldn't. And that's how I let go of this thing, because I'm admitting the truth to myself. Would it ever occur to me that I had this item? Would I ever go looking for it? No. And it needs to go. That second question is key there too. Where to look first? Sometimes this works great for me. Other times I put something somewhere, and because I have an issue with object permanence, forget about it, and I'm totally surprised to find it later. Oh, me too, all the time. But the issue is also, where would I look for it first? And if I don't have a place, then would it ever occur to me that I already had one? Often lets me let go of those things. But it's also not a matter of me not being surprised when I open it. It's a matter of me, when I need it, asking myself where I would look for it first, going and looking for it with no confidence it's going to be there, and then it actually being there. That's the key. I live with chronic pain. I've been focusing on the most visible areas first. My pain issues make it very difficult to do much. Any other suggestions to help me make progress? Thanks. Yeah, like, first of all, acknowledge that what you're going through is a legitimate challenge. Like, you have a legitimate decluttering challenge. And also know that the less stuff that you have, the easier it's going to be to do everything in your home. Like, everything is going to be a little bit easier with less stuff to manage and navigate through and around and all that. So go hard on the trash and the obvious donations, because the trash and the donate box are right here with you, which means it doesn't involve the moving around, and those things, you're done with them the minute they go in there. Obviously, the trash has to go out and the donate box has to go out, but you are done with all the mental energy with it as soon as they go into one of those two things. And so more trash, more donations. Let's see. Is it typical that I actually feel like I get a dopamine hit doing the 5-step decluttering? I actually want to not put up Christmas decorations, but stay up later to declutter instead. I don't, I'm not a mental health professional, so I don't, whatever. But I will say, yes, it can be very exciting to declutter. I will say, if you have other people living in your home, I would encourage you to be sure that you do what is, family tradition for other people, so that they don't resent the decluttering part. Yeah, but also pay attention to how much easier it is to put up Christmas decorations, to how much easier it is to live in this space, how much easier it is to enjoy Christmas, all of those kinds of things. Pay attention to that, so that you're like, oh, this is making my life easier. And that's the focus there. Let's see. Sorry, I have to check my kids' texts right now. Okay, I think they've all got time for me to tell them about their gate changes in case they haven't noticed after this. Let's see. I try not to toss plastics out unnecessarily. I toss dried pens out as I go if they aren't working. My frustration: nicer pens with springs that write on and off, replace ink tube, or toss. I have no idea. That's not my area of expertise at all. But I'll bet you there are, because I know there's like whole stationary YouTubers, right? People who talk about this kind of stuff that could give you advice on that for sure. Let's see. My mom keeps buying things from little gifts for my little kids, but I've asked her to stop buying those things, but she gets offended. What can I do, because I'm overwhelmed from all of their stuff? Really zero in on the container concept. And that means when you really first, that's the last step of the 5-step process though. So when you start with the trash and you keep on moving down to the container concept, then once you get to that point, so go ahead with whatever's there, you deal with the, go through the 5-step process. But once you have, where would I look first for these little things that grandma gives? Okay, I would look first for it in this drawer. And then that drawer is the container. So that means that every new little thing that comes in has to earn a space there, and it's either good enough for something else to leave in order to make the space for it, or actually this thing is not there's no room for it, and I'm not willing to get rid of something else, and so this new thing doesn't get to come into our house. And then that then over time will become the kids' decisions with you establishing the container of how much stuff can stay there, and then maybe that will help grandma. But it's also one of those things too where you do what you have to do. You just do what you have to do. Meaning, apologize to your mom. I know, man, I wish I could handle more stuff. I wish we had more space, but we don't. And this is what I have learned is actually the thing that makes me able to handle it. So let's see. I haven't listened in a long time. I used to follow your method. Stop. Now I'm drowning. I know. I'm sorry. Going to start again. Should I start with how to manage your home on the verge of tears daily? First of all, I'm sorry that you're going through all that. Yeah, I mean, yes. How to manage your home. Play the audio while you work. That would be really helpful. Let's see. Last box in the closet included stuff from wedding to late hubby. Remarried 12 years ago. Keep or donate. Kids don't want it. I mean, that's completely and totally personal. It's totally up to you. I think having if this is something that works for you, like where would I look for it first? And then designating a small space, like it could be the box, it could be a smaller box, it could be a pretty box or whatever. But you said late hubby, so this is something that is, I'm sure, a time of your life that you treasure and all that, and you talk to your you remarry, you talk to your husband about how it is, the feelings there, and what do you want to do. But I would say, just a suggestion, a small designated memory box for that. And then that determines how much of the stuff that you keep. Let's see. Help. I need tips to deal with the holidays, like throw all the stuff in the closet until New Year. I know, not your answer. I mean, you do what you have to do, but as long as you were touching anything, kind of like we were talking about with that, container in the garage, that as long as you're touching it anyway, have the trash and have the donate box. And it's like, you're going to do what you have to do. But if you pick it up and it's trash, then make it as easy to stick it in the trash as to stick it in the closet. Let's see. Don't forget to, I've got I think it's fall 25 is the code right now for my 14 days to opening your front door to guests. That is I've got free videos here, free podcasts you can listen to. But if you want the ebook that walks you through and gives you all the printables and stuff to go with that, that would be helpful for what you're dealing with. Let's see. Is there a visible area that would win over another visible area? Yes, I define visibility as what guests would see when they enter your home. My mom okay, we already did that. Let's see. I used to be fairly on top of things. Then I went through quite a few major life things. How do I get back on track? Start with the dishes and 5-minute pickups. Those are the things that will get a home under control and will keep a home under control. Hi, Dana. What to do with received greeting cards from loved ones? I've been watching you for 5 years. My house is thankful. Love from Texas. Same thing as everything else. So where would I look for it first? Old greeting cards. And take it there now and embrace the reality of that space. You may not be willing to give any storage space in your home to old greeting cards. In that case, then they can all just go in the trash. If you do have a place where you would look for greeting cards from the past, maybe, I know for me, I have some from my mother-in-law to have, her signature both in what she called herself to me, and then mama to my husband, and then, her name for my grandkids. I mean, like, I have cards with her signature on there because that was really important to me. So, it's perfectly fine to keep them, but there's a limit there. And because that space is limited, I don't have every card that she ever signed. I have the most special, most important ones because the space is limited. That's the container concept in action. Let's see. Almost finished listening to your first book on audio and implementing weekly routines. Laundry day, bathroom day, daily dishes mixed with decluttering is seriously working. Thank you, Dana. I love that. Yay. I'm so excited for you. I noticed you don't mention making the bed daily like a lot of gurus do. I actually don't care if the bed isn't made every day. So I love this, but curious about your reasons. Yeah, I had also heard the same advice, like, oh, if you're serious about your house, you're going to make your bed. Great. If it's helpful for you, go for it. The reason I don't focus on making the bed is this. You cannot make your bed and still sleep at night. It does not actually grind everything to a halt for the bed to not be made. The dishes, if the dishes are not done, it grinds everything to a halt. You run out of dishes, you can't cook. You don't have the space to cook. Like, it grinds life to a halt. It is, when it's time to clean the house for someone to come over, you spend the 5 hours in the kitchen trying to get everything, done, and then blah, blah, blah. So it really, truly grinds everything to a halt to not have the dishes done, but it doesn't grind everything to a halt for the bed to not be made. So that is what I realized I had to focus on, because here's the problem. When someone would tell me, you have to make your bed, and I'm like, but I don't have to make my bed, then it kind of made me not trust what they were saying. And I'm it's great, right? Like, if you want to make your bed and if that's important for you, then you should absolutely do that. But for me, I was like, okay, I was so overwhelmed in my home that I felt like, I'm sitting here doing something. Does it really matter? Because if I did or I didn't, my house otherwise was pretty much the same, right? And it's great. Like, I actually love it when my bed is made. But I don't focus on that because I focus on the things that legitimately will pull your house out of disaster and keep your house out of disaster. The dishes, the 5-minute pickup. Those things are the keys. And that's why I focus on that. Okay. It is about to be one. I might have time for one more question. Oh, but there's no more question marks. So I finished perfectly on time. I did just want to let y'all know that we talked about it recently, and then we just kind of were able to get it going. I do, in case you listen to the podcasts here on YouTube, my podcasts exist, and you can go back and listen to the first one from I think it was 2013. So it's been like 12, 13 years now. 12, whatever. You can go back and listen to those on all the podcast players, Apple Podcasts, all the places where you can listen to podcasts. But we started putting them here on YouTube probably a year ago or so. But I don't like them here on my main channel. And part of the reason was that I couldn't put my old podcasts on because it would just completely blow up everything on this channel. So we've started a new channel for the podcast. It has we're putting them on there. They're not all on there yet, but it has podcast number 1 on there. You can go back and listen to it. Just know that was recorded a really, really long time ago. And things have adjusted and changed, but a lot of people like to go back and listen to those. So we're getting those on there. I think we're up to 100 and something at this point that's on there. And starting in January, we will start putting the current podcasts on there as well. So it's linked in the description of this. It's called A Slob Comes Clean Podcasts by Dana K. White or something like that. You can go and subscribe to that so you don't miss those. All right. I will talk to y'all. Should be talking to y'all next week. All right. Bye, y'all.